Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us in our DX2 webinar series brought to you by Sitecore ANZ. My name is Bronwyn Cook, and I'm part of the marketing team here at Sitecore. Before we get started, a couple of quick housekeeping items. This session will be recorded and made available on demand afterwards. Also, feel free to ask questions using the question box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll respond to those at the end of the webinar. I'm delighted to be introducing this webinar today, where Greg Baxter, who many of you will be familiar with from Codehouse, will be taking you through how to build an experience ecosystem in 90 days. Over to you, Greg.
Thank you, Bronwyn, and thank you, everybody, for attending. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure you're going to see something pretty interesting today. So without too much ado, let's move a little bit through this. I really want to cover off four really key things around this. And one of those things is why integrated martech is key for success. Lots of us have been around this business for some time now, and this has always been a place we were going as digital marketers. But there have been some fundamental changes over the last sort of year and a bit. I also want to talk about what are some of the real impediments to getting this moving. And small data versus big data is one of those things I really want to investigate. You can do an awful lot with really small pieces of data in order to increase customer experience and to cross and upsell digitally. We're going to take a look at how the experience ecosystem works. This is a live demo, being very brave today. So this is not a bunch of slides. This is, a Sitecore site talking to Salesforce and email in real time. And then we'll just finish off really quickly with a roadmap that'll tell us about how we get there. I want to presage this a little bit with, some of the drivers and accelerators that we've witnessed over the last kind of year and a half. And the reality is that all of the uncertainty around the situation on the planet right now has really changed the way that brands connect with customers. And in fact, it's changing the business model of a lot of companies in the wake of COVID-19. And one of the things this has done is it's really opened up a technological and digital marketing arms race. And of course, we all expect the pandemic to eventually settle, but you can't put the technology genie back in the bottle. So we've seen some real changes occur really, really quickly, quicker than I've ever seen in all of my many years in digital marketing. And it was all predicated by one thing. All of a sudden, human-to-human FaceTime was a really rare commodity. So PwC saw companies investing in omnichannel experience tools jump from 20 to 80% since 2020. And it really underpins a hard fact. Today, digital is the channel between customer and brand. And as I said, we were always going there. It's just been massively accelerated. We've always also known that it's no longer just a website, and it's no longer just email marketing, and it's no longer sales guys looking at fairly threadbare records inside CRMs in order to do business. So we know now that we're really dealing with a splinter net kind of scenario, and digital is a fully functioning ecosystem. Everybody communicating or connecting with a brand is using multiple channels and multiple devices to do so. And of course, the huge kind of elephant in the room, and that is none of this data-connected marketing future works without the data. And Harvard here make a really, really prescient point that it's just not so hard to actually do this stuff, but it's phenomenally hard for whatever reason to get hold of the data. And that gives limited insight across channels where customers are demanding a seamless experience. So there's a problem right there that needs to be solved pretty quickly. McKinsey have come out and said the recovery will be digital, and Salesforce have indicated that digital transformation has accelerated 7-fold since 2020. So companies are gearing up very, very fast in order to create really relevant personal relationships digitally with their customers. And when you boil this right down to fundamentals, this is about respect. Respecting that your company understands and knows the interactions a customer has done drives trust. And trust drives relationships and sales. So that's kind of pretty straightforward stuff. Before we jump into the live demo, I just want to outline what a marketer who has access to an experience ecosystem can do. And marketing follows a pretty time-worn path here. So the marketing initiates a top of funnel campaign to drive sales. Nearly all of these campaigns have a couple of really common attributes. They want to, of course, increase revenue, but they also want to capture prospect details in a CRM for nurture campaigns. So typically, marketing will send off a top of funnel post to Facebook and start a campaign. This is where Sitecore's email experience manager steps in, and rather than it being a one-shot campaign or just time delivered, Sitecore sets up a triggered campaign that reacts on activities customers take on the website in real time. And there's some really strong drivers for doing this. Email that's delivered when a customer is on the site is delivered in a top of mind format. So the open rate, as you can see, is phenomenally high, and the click-through rate is also phenomenally high. And this just makes perfect sense. You're not sending an email 2 days later and then following up with one 5 days later and then following up with another one kind of, 2 weeks later. So a really good strategy around this sort of stuff starts off with acquisition of a contact detail. So a contact goes from unknown to known. So a landing page in this case has a form. That form captures lead details and triggers out the first email, which is really all about opening dialogue. Sitecore then tracks what happens on the website in real time, and based on what that customer is doing, can trigger a second email around their real-time propensity and what other products they might be looking at, and then finally cross-sell. So it's super important in this world to align what people are receiving via email with what they're seeing on the website. Again, it's not rocket science, but you're curating a customer's path to purchase by personalizing the website based on things they're clicking in email, thereby telling you what they're interested in seeing next. We all know the metrics about Sitecore and personalization. An industry average is 19% uplift, 54% see an uplift of over 10%. I've been around the Sitecore ecosystem for a very long time and have seen uplift that makes that pale into insignificance. 600-700% is not uncommon when these things are introduced. Finally, all of this incredibly rich customer data does not really belong in a digital marketing platform. It goes to a golden record or a single point of truth. So all of this previously invisible information, their customer behavior, their profile, what they're interested in, is wrapped up and sent over to CRM so that a sales guy can look at somebody's path to purchase, understand what they're interested in, and therefore have more relevant conversations with these customers. And that's absolutely key. There's an old saying that the salesperson with the most data wins, and certainly Salesforce's metrics bear that out. So once it's in that environment, it means that marketing can retrospectively dig into the CRM using a whole bunch of tools. Sitecore has those tools, Salesforce Marketing Cloud has those tools, and really start a data-driven future. So I can segment data and run customer acquisition campaigns, retention campaigns. I can run campaigns around wallet share, and I can run campaigns that lapse customers. And this isn't blindly firing off an email. This is based on, reality and a golden record. So it's kind of super important to connect these three massive legs of an experience ecosystem: email, personalized website, and the golden spot or the golden point of truth is super important. And the reasons for that are pretty simple. So let's look at this kind of small data thing. I would love $10 for every time I've walked into a corporate office and been told that they have so much data that they don't know where to start. And, it might be a bit heretical, but I actually think you can do an enormous amount with small data. So if we look at combining the data between marketing automation, Sitecore, and previous customer record in CRM, we get a pretty strong picture. So, at a minimum, name, email, lead score, channel, and campaign is really interesting stuff to track. And we get this kind of opaque view of who this customer might be. It's certainly not high definition, and it's not high visibility of the customer. But if we combine that with just a few pieces of data captured by Sitecore in real time on a website, their profile. And profile means what product they're interested in, where they are in the customer journey, and all of those kind of fantastic metrics. We look at their engagement value. We look at the pages that they visited and the number of visits they've had, and we look at the conversions. When we capture that, we get a more high definition view of who this customer is. But if we combine this empirically with stuff that lives in the CRM, with their sales history, their prospect status, and whether they're up for renewals or what we can do with this customer, we really get the full high-vis picture of who a customer is. And we really have created an experience ecosystem that crosses those three major channels. So the point of all of this is we're probably looking at less than 15 points of data here. So it's not a massive integration problem. It's not a massive integration project. And at this point, I'll do a quick shout out to Terry Humphreys and the wonderful people at Fuse IT, who gave us the use of their Salesforce for Sitecore connector that made the demo you're about to see super easy to put together. So we're going to jump into the live demo right now. So I'm just going to switch a couple of screens. And what I want to show you first is that we have a standard Sitecore website. Some of you will be familiar with this. It has personalization. It has this fabulous little widget on the side that really shows us what's being captured by Sitecore XDB and analytics, and what we should be sharing with a CRM for full 360-degree visibility of customer behavior. I've also got Salesforce open over here, which I'll open a little bit later to show in real time that data is flowing through. We're going to start this experience by just jumping over to this screen. I've got Gmail open, ready to receive triggered emails, and I'm just going to open a new tab, and I'm going to bring up a top of funnel campaign. So this campaign has been created by a marketer. It's sitting on an Xbox site with, outrageous amounts of traffic. And the company here has put up a top of funnel campaign around winning an Xbox One. So that's a pretty good, enticing offer. I click on it and I go to my Sitecore website. And interestingly enough, the homepage that you saw just a few minutes ago has completely personalized around this experience. We've put the Win an Xbox front and center on the homepage, and we've swapped out the hero image to show imagery and content that is all around gaming. We've also started capturing some data. So I'm just going to complete this, and today I'm going to be Gary Jones. Why not? That will do. And my email experience can be experience ecosystem. And I'm just going to edit this really quickly because I've done quite a few demos in the build of this, and I want to give this a unique ID. So 678 will do at gmail.com, and I enter the competition. Everything I've just entered, of course, is being stored in Sitecore XDB. But now everything is also starting that nurture campaign that we've set up here. And that nurture campaign is designed to do exactly what I said it would do before: upsell, cross-sell, and nurture. So if I jump into Sitecore now, my engagement has gone up to 65 because I've started on a nurture. It's tracked that I'm interested in gaming, that I've completed a form, and all of that. It knows my personal information, but it's also tracked my on-site behavior. Right now, I'm being profiled as being interested in games with a secondary profile of sort of newest and coolest, which is kind of great. I've also triggered a couple of pretty significant goals. I'm now registered as being in the Xbox competition. I've entered that, and you can see beside that I've been given points for that. And it's those goals have triggered business outcomes, and the outcomes are that I'm now in a lead management funnel and I'm considered a marketing lead. We'll see this information morph and grow over every interaction I have with Sitecore. So if I jump out now into my email package, you can see that just filling out that form and somewhat predictably has shot me out an email straight away. Fantastic, best practice. Totally get that. And if I open it up, it says, congratulations on entering our Xbox competition. But it's like all good marketing, got a call to action about other products that might be of interest to me if I'm a hardcore gamer. So it's about check out our massive TV screens for the ultimate gaming experience. And as a user, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm interested in that. That's super cool. I'm going to click on it. So I click on this to go back to Sitecore, which is drilling me into a deep page in the website around finding the perfect screen size. So right now, if I look at my my profile, I've now been profiled as being interested in other things, So I jump back to my home page, which has now changed. And my hero image is now saying, entertain yourself at home. So it's followed the second kind of path of nurturing, if you like, here, and transition from gaming to big screens and all of those kind of great things. So it's also now cross-selling me around fitness, which is also a pretty good story. So if I click on try it now, I will go to a graphically rendered Sitecore form. So this Sitecore form is all about getting me to interact with a personal trainer. But in this particular demo, I'm going to abandon the form and abandon the process. I'm interested in it, but I maybe need just a little bit more of a nudge to fully engage. So I go back to my home page. This is all still here. If I go to my email now and go to my inbox, Sitecore has recognized that I've looked at a page but abandoned a significant goal on that page. And rather than just let it go, it's reinforcing what it hopes is my interest and sends me another email about balancing your gaming with health to be a winner. We get it. You're a hardcore gamer, always in the action. You'll play longer. Have you thought about adding yoga into the mix? Whatever that kind of messaging might be. So if I click through now and go back to the website based on this, I go back to my virtual trainer thing. My profile is morphing all of the way through this to being interested in gaming, to being interested in home theaters, and being interested now in fitness. So on the second attempt, I actually engage and I think, well, a bit of yoga would be good for me. So I start filling out this form, which I think is a super example of a form. I love that Sitecore have built this out to be graphical rather than just a straightforward kind of text form. It's taking a sec to do it. Second field of the form, I'm going to go hard. I'm going to go for 5 or more days, press next. And finally, I come through to, when it catches up with me, just a tick. Demo sites, we always love this sort of stuff. And I'm going to go for really high intensity. So I press next. I'm kind of through the first part of my form now. I haven't been inundated with a massive amount of fields or anything like that. It's been really simple for me to follow. And now I get to the, the really pointy end of the campaign. And that's to get in touch with Sydney. So I'm Gary Jones. Fills out my my email, of course, automatically. And I work for Gary Pty Limited. Why not? My phone number can be, a phone number, obviously. And my message is, hello, I'm interested in yoga. Fantastic. So when I click this, you would expect all of this stuff to be written to Sitecore's XDB. And it's critical to have that information because if it's in XDB, we can, of course, personalize against it. But is a sales guy going to jump into the back end of Sitecore and look at an XDB record and an experience analytics record? They're probably not. They're probably going to want to see this stuff in the platform that they're most used to dealing with. And in today's example, of course, it's Salesforce. So if I click on this, all of that data is being picked up and pushed through to Salesforce. It says, thank you for your submission and all of that kind of stuff. I go back to my home page maybe, but at some point, my sales guy is going to get an alert and they're going to jump into their Salesforce record. So I'm just going to quickly refresh. And we have Gary Jones's details right in Salesforce. So a quick overview of this just tells me how incredibly powerful this is. I click on the record for Gary. I can see that he came in initially through the Xbox competition. Tick, this guy's interested in games. He clicked on an email link. At some point, he abandoned the trainer finder. And of course, I can click down and see all of those other goals that were fired in Sitecore, that he completed the form, that he contacted Sydney, and all of the rest of that stuff. I can also see his profile down here. I can see that he was interested initially in electronics, that he was interested in a target room category, which is all of the theatre stuff that you can see there. And by viewing all, I'm able to see that at some point he's morphed over into, a fitness profile, and he's really interested in that. So if I roll down just a little bit further on this view, I can dig right into the Sitecore visit, and I can see the Xbox campaign that brought him here. I can see that he's visited a number of pages. I can see that it's a Facebook sponsored post, so I can start to measure the ROI of the channel and this particular campaign. I can see a lot about Gary, and as a salesperson, I really get a clear mental picture of who Gary is. And I'm getting that clear mental picture because I'm seeing the combination of marketing automation captured data, Sitecore captured data, and the historical record, if there is one, inside Salesforce. So that is a phenomenally powerful view for a sales guy to create a meaningful conversation, or for a digital marketer using Sitecore or Salesforce Marketing Cloud to dig in to plan the next campaign. So we might see that Gary attended a fitness thing and that his fitness journey is going really well. So we might want to now sell Gary with wearable fitness technology like a Fitbit or something like that. The point of it is that we've got this phenomenal view of who Gary is. So I'm just going to jump back to my demo now. As ever at this point, thankful that the internet did not conspire to make my demo more difficult than it should be. So thank you, demo, powers that be. And I'll finish this really short talk about, what it takes to kind of get there. So the other really big thing that I come across all of the time when I'm consulting, and as Bronwyn said, I've been around the Sitecore ecosystem for 13 years now, and in digital marketing for way more than 25. Which, the less said about the better. I've watched the entire evolution of the internet over a long period of time. The biggest single barrier is this perceived complexity and perceived length of project and build to actually get this stuff off the ground, and this has all been utterly debunked by technologies like Sitecore opening up really cool tools like the XDB, on-site personalization. And I'll give a massive shout out here to the $1.2 billion investment that Sitecore has just achieved. I reckon $1.2 billion says a lot. There's a hashtag spend it like Steve. Make a comment. Tell Sitecore, what it is you would like them to spend that budget on. We know already that they've announced the Box Ever CDP and 451 Commerce acquisitions. So cool to have a company that listens. But anyway, back to this slide. So the barriers around this have all been around complexity. Sitecore and its acquisitions and its very, philosophical foundation knock away the complexity around personalization and email management via EXM and XP together. They're building out, and other firms building out of connectors make putting this information together really, really simple. I actually blushed a bit with how quick it was to set up that demo. And, I'm a truthful fella. There were moments we scratched our heads, and there were moments where we worked a few kinks out, but substantially getting it up and running was, a day or two's work, which is, phenomenal. So it's really quick. The other big barrier, of course, being big data. And I kind of hope I showed you that you don't have to make this thing bigger than Ben-Hur to be able to pull out really powerful data that will give you a data-driven marketing future. So Codehouse put together an experience roadmap to make this really simple. It starts necessarily by, aligning your campaigns with the website journey. That just makes absolute perfect sense. And it's such an important step. It's one of the 5 key things every time I do it to talk to a customer is campaign personalization. Fortunately, that's really cheap. It's about setting up the taxonomies. It's about using Campaign Manager to get campaign codes. And it's about building out some really simple personalization rules on Sitecore, just like you saw how I went from being interested in games to home theaters, and my hero image swapped around to show home theaters. Really, really simple stuff, really powerful, typically over in a week or two. Very, very quick. We find that on average, if we have a well-structured, well-constructed Sitecore website, that it really only takes around 4 weeks to build out the personalization capability across that website. And in doing that, we create rules-based personalization, we create profiles, we connect campaigning, and we undertake A/B testing. We undertake the core things that underline, experience management on a website. All of this time, we're talking to the company and discovering the business drivers of the company. And we're really looking at all of the data that we've captured, and we're plucking the jewels in the crown around that data out and delivering it over to, a CRM system. So, there can be companies right now that are saying to me, oh, we haven't made the enterprise decision yet around what CRM. And my point to them would be, start by collecting it at least in Sitecore. So when you fire up your approved and run out CRM, it's not a ghost town. We can import all of this incredible historical information and make it a rich resource from day one. And if you already have a CRM, contributing the previously invisible website behavior into that makes that CRM and your salespeople's lives much, much, much richer. And don't forget, in a martech arms race, trust and respect are two of the things that you're going to want to win over. And trust and respect really come from your people knowing a particular customer and not putting a foot wrong in the digital or website communications or vocal communications from sales that you're having. If you do all of that, you can step into a marketing transformation, and we can move forward really confidently by running just a small, 10-week pilot, that you now have the tools and have onboarded the skills to really make digital marketing a connected, cohesive canvas for curating every customer's path to purchase. It's really kind of extraordinary. I could, of course, for those who know me, spoken about this for hours at length, but I've kept this pretty short. I hope I haven't whizzed through it too quickly for you, but I want to leave a little bit of time at the end for some questions and answers. So I'll reintroduce Bronwyn, who might have some questions that have flowed in over that presentation.
Thanks very much, Greg. Every time I see Sitecore and Salesforce in action together, it continues to blow me away. One of the questions I always have is, how much of what you've shown is, in air quotes, out of the box?
We created no custom coding or no custom components during that entire presentation. That was 100% out of the box, what you just saw. Nothing.
Excellent.
Zero. Yeah, nada. So,
Nada.
I think personally that, whenever I hear a consultant or an agent say it's a journey, I'm just hearing cash registers. And I'm not so interested in the journey. I'm really interested in the destination. And if you can perceive the destination and it's not this big, opaque, hairy ball of maybe, then you can get there really quick. So there are a bunch of connectors to end the tech problem. Sitecore well and truly hammers flat the email and website personalization part. And, cloud-based systems like Salesforce are, simply tools that are best of breed. So being able to do this without hauling in a bunch of, web dev guys was a pure pleasure.
And I think that's one of the things that, especially Sitecore over the past couple of years has really been on that journey on, is how to empower marketing to be more self-serve and to get the most out of the system without having to rely on our friends in IT for extensive coding and weeks to set up forms and campaigns and nurture campaigns. And I think as the landscape changes, especially around digital experience platforms, having that plug and play, that drag and drop, that graphical interface as well, that WYSIWYG interface, especially for marketers, is just the more crucial. And you mentioned our $1.2 billion investment, and some of the acquisitions that we've made to date. And I think there's even more exciting news coming down the line. But my question for you is, if you had a slice of that money, how would you spend it?
I think the CDB play was genius. Look, personalization, even though the term has been bandied around for forever and a day, it's kind of becoming like the 360-degree view of the customer. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a Rosetta Stone statement now. Has still proven to be difficult for companies to undertake. And a lot of that is perceived issues, and a lot of that is not having a dedicated eco experience framework to put it together in. At the end of the day, there is no doubt at some point in the future, machines will, of course, help us make these decisions. But right now, if you can get this kind of thing done in 10 weeks and you can stand up a living, breathing, personalized ecosystem, then you're actually just at the starting line. You don't have a bunch of disparate platforms. You have a cohesive and holistic architecture for creating, dreams, creating marketing dreams, and being able to actually pull it off without, sending the CIO into a paroxysm of fear or killing 50 million or killing 50 million developers with what you need and want. Yeah.
Great. Thanks for that. Thanks for that insight. And we've not had any further questions. So, I'd like to thank Greg very much for his time and that demo. I don't think Greg will mind me saying this. Oh no, we have a question.
All right.
Hooray! Question from Nathan. A bit of a curly one, but actually a really, really good question. What are some of the barriers that would stop you from this being done in 10 weeks?
Okay. Firstly, a lot of this depends on the health of your Sitecore website. That's just a reality. So I would presage this by saying we use Sitecore's demo site for this for a reason, that we knew it would be built around SXA and built around best practice. So there are a bunch of things you can do to mitigate that. I'm talking to a customer right now who wants to enable, for example, Experience Editor. And in my view, that just should be enabled default. But in this case, it's kind of not. So we're looking at just enabling it on 3 key pages where we want to undertake personalization. So the first thing to do is to step back and look at the siloed health of each of these platforms. And make sure that they're ready to go. But again, it is not a big deal to fix those things. We often run into implementations of Salesforce or implementations of anything where, budgetary corners might have been cut or whatever, and we look for the fastest possible operational fix without having to do open heart surgery. So I honestly don't think there are any realistic barriers to this anymore. But of course, well-instrumented baseline systems are important.
And also, I think a lot of, marketing platforms, for want of a better word, can still get lumped into going back, we've both been around the industry for a while, it's going to be as big as an ERP, it's going to be as big as a CRM, it's going to be as big as a marketing automation, and look at many of those things fail. So it's all about the education, especially to, the right people that you need to be your champions. Nathan, there's a lot of Sitecore documentation and resources around at the moment about how to build that dream team, who you need from marketing, who you need from IT, who you need from the C-suite, and the different roles that they can play in order to make sure that you are getting the right people behind this process. And I think both Greg's model and our digital experience maturity model help you find where you are and then take those next steps to get to that next level. So check out some of those resources as well.
Yeah, look, I'd agree that there are literally no more valid, I'm just going to say it, no more valid excuses not to get in this game. It doesn't have to be a long project. It doesn't have to have a budget that would make King Midas wince. You can start this pretty quickly and pretty small, and I would recommend that. So, the reason I wanted to keep the amount of data we captured down really small is that it's really meaningful data to sales and marketing, and it's all data that's key to triggering, a really smooth, personalized customer experience. Collect all of the data that you want in the world, but don't make that such a big mountain that you can no longer see kind of the pathway to the top, because the pathway to the top is always smaller than you think.
Exactly, exactly. So on that note, I will again thank Greg for his time. I'm sure he won't mind if you reach out to him on LinkedIn or any other. If Greg, if you've got one more minute, we have one more question. It's an interesting one, and then I definitely will wrap up. Do you have examples of using a chatbot-like system that talks to Salesforce and Sitecore?
Okay,
Oh.
great question. Off the top of my head, I don't, but I am dealing now with a couple of businesses and brands that do have chatbots. And of course, this all comes down to that, three magical letters, API. So any, I guess, web-based technology these days pretty much has an API. And if it has an API, then we can lift that data and share it with both Sitecore, using XConnect or one of its data sharing models, and we can certainly share it with Salesforce. I would have to go out and look at a particular chatbot brand, and then of course I would hit Google and start to look at what integration tools exist around that. But I would be very, very surprised that if at a kind of baseline reality, any technology was sitting in a martech stack that didn't have an API to share data. So I don't see that as a real issue. It's just something that you would map.
And I can actually answer that from Sitecore's perspective. So Sitecore.com is obviously built on Sitecore. It has just been upgraded to our latest version 10. And if you happen to visit Sitecore.com, you will encounter a chatbot. And that is linked to our Salesforce. And I can tell you that we used Drift. So hopefully that is a starting point for the answer to that question. Right, definitely wrapping up now. Thank you, Greg, for his time. Connect with him on LinkedIn, and thank you very much, everyone, for your time, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the time. Have a fantastic day. Bye.